All right, part two of the mental aspect of stuttering. So someone had emailed me about how to handle the mental aspect of stuttering, and I define that by saying that the mental aspect of stuttering is about being totally obsessed with stuttering, what we're saying, how we're saying it, if it's fluent or not, what success means. That's a little bit in part one. Part two, I'm going to give you some practical tips, but I do want to talk about what I went through when I was going through therapy with a speech language pathologist many years ago, and I was like you, obsessed with it. I became obsessed with being light on my articulators, using easy onset. Those techniques work so well for me. I did it so much. I used the 5-minute warm-up in the morning, and later in the day, I probably did 5 minutes of self-talk. That's what it was, sorry. 5 minutes of self-talk in the morning, and later on, I probably did it 4 times a day, maybe even 3 times a day, using fluency shaping techniques, being light on my articulators, using easy onset, became almost automatic. If something happened during the day, my wife and I were hanging out and talking. Sometimes if something didn't quite come out as well as I wanted it to, I'd actually repeat it to see if I could use easy onset and have the volume be loud enough for her to hear it. And she would often ask me, "Chris, you practicing again?" The answer was yes, because I developed that GPS in my mouth, that pressure, that knowing where my tongue was and where my lips were when I made sounds and how much breath I needed. So I became almost obsessed with it so I could be more fluent. And not everybody is like that. Not everybody will do it like that, but there are some practical ways to improve. There are some ways to handle that mental aspect. I did part one about success, things like that, preparing for your day. Then there's some other ways to do it. How about physical distractions, right? I have a pen in my hand right now. So there could be a visual anchor where you are almost distracted by the pen in your hand versus totally. It's hard to monitor your speech full time because you can't do it, right? It's almost physically, emotionally, cognitively impossible to monitor every single word you say, right? Because it would sound weird. But you can, I think we're always ping-ponging between what we say and how we say it. So if there's a physical, maybe visual anchor, that may take your mind off that obsession about it, right? That mental aspect. It can distract you a little bit. I thought about a game, like throwing a ball to a communication partner. You could actually use it in therapy too. You have a ball, and every time you throw it to a partner, the ball's going to be in the air, and you could do easy onset until the other person catches it, right? You can actually incorporate a little bit of therapy in that. That's a distraction as well. It takes down some of that cognitive load, some of that emotional load as well. You're actually doing something, right? Another idea would be one breath, one idea. You are almost limiting your planning, these long utterances or these long sentences, because we can only get out so much in one breath. So it's one breath, one idea. And that may help as well. Again, taking down the cognitive load, taking down the mental side of it for some shorter utterances. And maybe you could use some bullet points too, where everything is not planned or just a couple of ideas that you have. Sort of like what I have here, right? I have some ideas to talk about a little bit. And another point is to be outward focused, be an active listener. Maybe that's just a social skills thing, but to be thinking about what the other person is saying, not necessarily what you're saying or how you're saying or your replies. You're listening, you're an active listener, you're paying attention to your communication partner, and then you will reply appropriately, right? All these things are pretty practical to kind of take your mind off of stuttering, but I totally understand monitoring what you say and how you say it. Again, we're always ping-ponging between us because we're people who stutter. However, those are some of the practical tips: tossing a ball, the visual anchor, one breath, one idea, have an outward focus. Those are some practical ways of doing it. Remember, speaking is practice, not performance. Comment, follow, like, send a question. I usually answer pretty quickly. Thanks for watching, and happy fluency.